Hello, hello, hello. It is June 15th, 2020, and it is the Benefit Roast. I am so happy to be back. I do not like this every other week thing. I like it every week. I like consistency, Rodger. But before I do anything else, before I talk about anything, I want to remind people that you can put questions, comments, whatever down in the chat box to your lower right. We'd love to have you interact with us. I see we have a lot of great people on, and we're going to cover a topic that I've been anxious to get Rodger to talk about for a couple of months, even probably a year or two, because I'm looking forward to learning along with all of you. And that is, how do we start the discussion, Rodger? How do we start a conversation? People have clients and they're not sure what to say to them to get into the discussion about self-funding, especially in the situation where someone goes, yeah, I know about it, it's not for me, or I don't want to assume the risk, or no, we're not big enough, or any of the other 18 things that people say, which I'm sure you've heard in your own life, right?
Well, I think, Bob, that's true. And while you like every Monday, I like a big, thick, juicy tenderloin on the grill too, but that doesn't always happen. So what we're going to do this Monday is talk about how we start a conversation. Right now is probably one of the most ideal and optimum times to ever be able to create a conversation with a customer, or even with a prospect, because it's a real clean, simple thing. You can ask anyone today how this stuff has affected their business, and you'll get somebody that wants to say it. They're going to want to answer that question. You know, unless they just got off of 3 different interviews with the news and they're tired of talking about it, they want to say, this is what it is. This is what it's done to my business, or no, it hasn't affected my business. I think it's a bunch of malarkey, or I think it's real. I'm glad we did what we did and we'll get through it. Who knows what they're going to say, but most people have a feeling. And in this day and age, to have an opportune time where you can get a customer to express feelings right out of the gate, you really can't beat that. And then if you need to take it further, or you think that small talk approach is just too small, then ask them how they're doing with their telemedicine provider.
What?
Just ask them how they're doing with their telemedicine provider. How do you like your telemed on your health plan? What do you mean you don't have one? Well, you're with Care First, you're with Aetna, you're with somebody that got a doctor out there somewhere on the telephonic. Maybe it's a feature you don't know in your plan yet. Or let's talk about the advantages to that. Or maybe you say, tell me about your benefits app on your phone. Can you get access to what you need? Is it easy? Is it easy for your employees? Or are they calling you first and calling their insurance company last, which is the last thing C-suite people want, right? So I think the message is the time is back on for all of us to have conversations with our customers about where they are today as we're coming out of this COVID disaster. Real, imagined, indifferent, doesn't matter what the customer or prospect's feeling about that is, but it's time to move forward. And we move forward slowly or quickly. And again, everybody's going to have their own opinion, but none of the actual opinions matter as much as the conversation and the context. And what you learn about your customer will tell you a lot. For example, Bob, you mentioned a whole lot of traditional, classic objections that you hear when you talk about a self-funded health plan. Well, if you're talking to an employer and they said, I never let this stop me, I kept working, I'm in this business, it was classified as essential, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let any of this stuff stop me. Well, the personality of that entrepreneur is classically not going to be afraid of much of anything, right? So
makes sense.
So what have you garnered? You've had a quick conversation with somebody about how the business has affected them, or has been affected by this COVID-19 ordeal. and you get that kind of response, you've really got something. But you could also get a response that says it's devastating. I'm in the restaurant business. It shut us down for 2 months. What do you expect? I mean, it crushes us. We're one of the lucky ones that have made it through, but just barely. And if it wasn't for this or that, we wouldn't. And so what's your response now, Bob?
Well, I guess my response is that you're presenting this as a chance for opportunity. My question to you as I'm thinking through this is, if you start with the first discussion, which was, how's this affecting you? Are you suggesting having a discussion, or are you suggesting listen to them and then shift into their benefits? Because I do have some apprehension that it could get into political waters and it could get a little complicated and heated in the moment potentially.
That's the beauty of this discussion. It's all about feelings, and it's about their feelings and their opinions, and none of your business, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. You don't care what their response is. You're there to compassionately listen,
okay,
to sympathetically hear, and to emphatically support whatever that business person needs to go forward.
By the way, that was really good. Say those three again.
I don't think I can. I'll have to get that on the recording, Bob.
Yeah, that is gold. That would be like a whole, yeah, that was really good.
But see, that's the kind of reel you're going to get from your customers during this time frame. Right? This is the thing that most of us don't understand. We get apprehensive. Crap, how can I call them now? Benefits is the last thing on their mind. Well, it might be, or it might be the first thing on their mind, because through this whole ordeal, they got very little cooperation from their health insurance carrier. They got some extended payment plans. They couldn't get any clear answers about COVID testing. They didn't get any support on whether I can get the antibodies test. They didn't get anything other than a barrage of emails that are no different than the 5 o'clock news, and no more supportive, right? So, or they're about as optimistic as President Trump's press releases were, which means I should have never worried in the first place, right? Wow. We'll all be out of this and I'll be rich next month. So it doesn't matter, right? But the point is, it's time to start talking to our customers again. And I'm saying it's probably a little over past that time. The time was a few weeks ago, and it's got to be a continuous, ongoing effort now to pick up the phone, talk to your customers, talk to your prospects, because right now they are ripe to talk to anybody they think might have something to offer, because they're digging out, they're moving forward, they're in a growth stage now. No matter where they were before this, they're back into a growth stage now, right? Because you got to go from wound down to back up. So everybody's in a ramp up stage. And when you're in a ramp up stage, you want every ally you can get. And that's a more important time for all of your prospects than any renewal is. Find your prospects and your customers when they need you most. And I would submit to you that that's now.
Well, Rodger, I guess one question I know I've got to ask, because someone's thinking it, probably lots of people are, is I love what you're saying. I'd love to have that discussion, but there's an elephant in the room that I really don't want to have to deal with this person. Their renewal isn't until January or March. I don't want to talk to them right now because they're going to ask me the big R question. What's going to happen to my rates? And you know, and I know they're probably going to go up a bit. And okay, most brokers I talk to don't want to get into that any sooner than they absolutely have to.
All right, so let me ask you this. How many brokers really want to sit back idly and wait for that renewal to hammer their customers next year when all of this COVID cost comes rolling back to haunt them? Is it time to sit back and wait, or is it time to say, well, wait a minute, We can get you to a plan that's based upon your experience. Did you have COVID claims? Did you have people out of work for 2 weeks? Were you suffering any more of a crisis than the shutdown? Or were you suffering the shutdown and the COVID epidemic? And if you were only suffering the shutdown, then your focus now has to be on ramping back up with the minimal expense. Minimal expense means get the best deals you can get from all of your vendors, including your health benefits providers. Number 2 expense. As they open back up, their number 2 expense is putting people back on the ranks, getting their benefits in place, or having sustained them through this whole thing. They understand and feel the burden of that benefit cost, especially when they look at the last few months. If we haven't had a COVID expense, if we haven't had a COVID claim, all of our other expenses have been postponed. They've been delayed, they've been postponed, they're not allowed to do them, they were all elective. We're just starting to get back into those, but we haven't done anything. Where did all my money go? That's a big question, and that's a big deal. And you open that can of worms up, and everybody's going to want to talk about it, and everybody's going to want to know.
So let me ask you a question like I'm the client, and you give me the answer you would give. How's that? We'll just do some real world stuff. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Rodger, I can't do self-funding because, we're not a huge company. We've only got like 10 employees. And I know you keep saying that self-funding works for everyone, but that's the huge companies, right?
Well, what you have to understand, Bob, is that the definition of self-funding does not mean you don't have insurance. You're buying plenty of insurance when you self-fund, but you're buying it to protect yourself instead of buying it on an individual policy basis for each employee. Cover the employees and protect yourself and make the plan the way you want it to work. It's that simple. Don't let the term self-funding confuse the issue. Self-funding is an alternate methodology to get your health benefits in place in a much different way that can save you tens of thousands of dollars, even at that 10-life employer. You've got to look.
Okay, that's good. Let me give you another one. My employees are really comfortable with our existing benefit package and that card from one of the bukas, as you like to call them.
Well, my employees are really comfortable with 8 weeks of unemployment with a $600 additional bonus as well. But pretty soon they're going to lose that comfort zone and they're going to have to find out what the real world means. And the real world is about value. You've got to get value out of everything you do going forward. If you're going to come out of this COVID slowdown and achieve the success you were used to prior or even greater, then you've got to focus on all of those realities. And the reality is comfort is a big element in benefits, but that doesn't mean it can only be found in one place. Change can be very, very healthy, as we all know. And maybe it's time to get those employees healthier benefits by making a change.
Okay. Wow, you're good at this. Are you enjoying this?
Well, it's just what we do, and it's Bob. It's funny because you can do role playing all day long in a sales and marketing perspective and banter back and forth. But the reality is, when it's just the gut of what you're doing every day, it's like I used to battle with legislators that said you're a special interest group, and I said I'm not a special interest group. It's just my job to get more people covered by health insurance tomorrow than were covered today. And I only get paid when I succeed. So you should believe that the special interest that I have mirrors that of your constituents. Well, the answers to these questions are the same thing, Bob. It's not about special interest. It's about what's right, what makes sense, and how to get the job done. So yeah, I enjoy that.
All right, let me give you a couple more then. I looked at self-funding with a broker a couple of years ago. It's not going to work for me. There's no way it could work.
Well, if you believe there's no way it can work, there are some circumstances where that may be true. So tell me why yours won't work, Bob.
The broker just said he didn't think it would be good. It's too risky for our kind of business.
Okay. So you took your broker's word for it to take the easy way out and leave you where you were. Are you happy with the premiums you're paying now?
No,
Are you happy with the benefits that you have for that money?
no,
Do you think you're getting as much benefit back as you're paying in premium dollar?
probably not.
Well, then fire your broker and get the truth from somebody. Get the real information and at least give it a try to see what you're looking at. And I'm not saying you have to go self-funded, but I'm saying you have to do the study to find out if you should. To blindly follow a broker's advice when that broker says, don't bother trying this, doesn't make sense to me. Unless you've got some really strong rationale. If you came to me and said, Bob, I've got 7 employees and one is due for brain transplant in 3 months, I'd say, okay, well, stick where you are. You're not going to do anything. After that brain transplant, if this guy's back to work and smarter than ever,
Just
then,
so we're clear, Roger, they don't do brain transplants.
Bob, how did you come to be?
I just want to be
Sorry.
clear, they don't.
I knew you were going to do that and lob that up for me, so I had to throw it. Now, you're right, but it's a really good hypothetical that doesn't offend anybody, right? So the reality is, I guess the point is that as you go forward, there are scenarios where the group is not appropriate for self-funded. But my question to you, Bob, is when you said it just won't work for me, do you have evidence to that, or do you have testimony to that?
No.
You need evidence. The testimony from a broker who may not understand self-funded isn't going to help you any. And that's a reality of what we have out there today. There are thousands of brokers and a small percentage of them that really understand all that the business has to offer them and their clients. We get a question on screen, or actually I think it's more of a comment. Dennis says pre-renewal meetings 6 months in advance is really key in this season, and offer an employee benefits survey while you're at it. Well, Dennis, I thank you for that comment, and that might be one that a lot of people can take advantage of. I think the pre-renewal meeting is something we all should do, whether it be 6 months, whether it be once a quarter, whether it be 6 months, the next quarter, and 90 days, go from there, who knows what. But an open, ongoing dialogue with your customer is really the critical message there. And the employee survey is an interesting one, because I'd like to know what you're going to ask. Because sometimes I fear that asking questions of an audience that is not fully embedded with understanding of the complexities of the issue, you're not always going to get the right answers. So you have to be very careful in which questions you ask, how, to not lend to a bandwagon objection to insurance industry in general, which leads you to no productive solution, versus some real simple matters about what this group needs to do going forward.
Roger, do you advocate, you said that having that pre-renewal meeting or having an ongoing discussion, how often, if in a perfect world, if I said to you, Roger, I'm a broker, I want to make sure I'm really servicing my clients the best way possible, what would you tell me in your mind is the right fit?
I think that now is a very unique time. So the answer today is different than it was on any other day. The answer today is pick up the phone and call your customer anytime you feel like it, and more often than not, right? If you call your customer every 2 weeks during this ordeal, just to say, look, I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do, you let me know. Is there anything going on? Are there any changes? Do you need some help? Talk to me. Talk to your broker. Talk to your employer. Talk to your customers, because they need to hear that. They need to feel that support. When we come out of this completely, all of the customers are going to remember the people that looked out for them, just like I do. I remember everybody that looked out for me during this time. And you're going to remember everybody, Bob, that looked out for you. And every broker on this phone, Dennis, Debbie, Fran, you're all going to know who looked out for you, who cared, who showed some resemblance of care and concern. Dawn Morgan, our vice president, had a customer talk to her the other day and say, you know, I know you've got other customers, go help them. I know how overwhelming we've been. I know how much work you've done, and we appreciate it, but we also know you have other customers. That's where you want your customers. You want your customers to feel like you've been working for them and them alone, because you're there all the time. You're buying gift cards from them for when they reopen. You're buying coffee from them to send to your customers. You're doing whatever it is you can do to do your part to help their business overcome. That won't be forgotten next year or the year after. This is a crisis of unprecedented proportions for our lives, right? Whether the crisis is real or perceived or not, doesn't matter. What it has done to business is a true crisis. And so we need to take that and say, wait a minute, what am I doing to help? And what have I been doing to help? And if you haven't been doing enough to help during this process, because, you know, let's face it, it's like a funeral, right? Sometimes it's hard to call somebody and say, hey, I'm really sorry, I heard about so-and-so, because you don't know what to say. And maybe for the first 2 months of this crisis, you just didn't know what to say to someone. Well, now it's the time. Hey, I understand you've been through a hard time. I know where we're going. I want you to know I'm here. Is there anything we can help you with as you move forward from this thing? Let me know.
What about prospects that you may have talked to 6 months ago or a year ago? How often should we be engaging with them, do you think?
You know, I think that if you have a prospect that you engaged 6 months or a year ago and you did not reach out to them by now, since March 23rd to today, you've messed up pretty bad.
Is it recoverable?
I think it's recoverable because fortunately, most of the other folks haven't reached out to them either, right? But if their current broker, who you needed to displace, has been reaching out, your job is 3 times as hard as it was last year. And in fact, you might not even have a shot. I can pretty well tell you that customers that I've spoken to more than 5 times since March 23rd aren't going anywhere for the next 2 years. They're just not. Even customers that I haven't personally spoken to, but that I've done little things for. That's important. If you're not doing little things yet, start today, because you're too late already. Don't get any further behind the 8 ball.
Define little things, if you would.
You know, you call, you find out how the business is going. If they say things or this or that, say, look, Thursday I'm sending pizza over there. How many guys do you have that are going to be working? Right? Mm-hmm. You call pizza joint, you order 5 pizzas, you send them over to the shop, and you say lunch is on me. Let's you know, give everybody a free lunch, because there is such a thing sometimes. And I know you're getting there. They're getting back to work. They don't have any money. They're carrying peanut butter and jelly in their lunchbox. Let's get them something worth eating. Which, not that pizza's a whole lot better, but it's a lot better than peanut butter and jelly in most people's eyes. I mean, that's just one example. You know, one of the things you can do is you can go online and you can go to the local movie theater chain that you have in your area, and you can buy a whole bunch of $15 cards, right? What's 100 of those cost? $1,500. And you just say, hey, Bob, here's 3 movie passes, or here's a package. It's got 2 movie tickets, popcorn, and a soda. Go out and have some fun when these theaters open back up. I want you to have that on me. It could be anything. Could be anything. If you've got corporate branded stuff laying around and you don't have any other money to do anything with, you don't have any budget for anything else, Send them a keychain, for God's sake. It doesn't matter. Send them a keychain with a note, a handwritten note, and say, hey, been thinking about you. I know it's a tough time. Let me know if I can help you with anything, or if there's anything I can do. We're already late, but better late than never. And never's coming pretty quick.
And the discussions you're talking about, if just to be clear, you're not talking about self-funded benefits or health plans with all these discussions, right?
That would not be my initial approach, Bob. My initial approach would be support.
Okay.
Talk to your customers about lending whatever level of support you can. Talk to your customers about how this has affected their business and how bad is it. And if over time in these conversations, it's really, really bad, then you need to start talking about cost saving strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where everything else comes together. And it might be a long-term process. They might not change until renewal, but you're going to have them prepared and ready to think about all of the right avenues when you get to that renewal.
Okay. And then are you an advocate of phone calls, Zoom calls, or WebEx, or in person? Rank those in order of what you think is most successful.
In person is starting to come back, but that's not your number one thing right now. Zoom meetings, if you know your customer is fluent in Zoom and uses it and knows that when he gets an email with a Zoom invite, that it's an instant call and he can click on it and open it up and you're there, then great, because he's got a face to talk to. Other than that, pick up the phone. If you think they don't know Zoom or their whatever conference facility you're using, whatever video calling feature you're using, if your customer isn't fluent with it, then just pick up the phone, because we know they know how to use that. Pick up the phone and let them hear your voice. Let them know you're still in business. Let them know you haven't been devastated by this, and let them know that you're going to do everything in your power so that they can't be devastated by this any further than they have been already.
Are you leaving them a voicemail message if you get their voicemail, or what are you doing in that situation?
Always. If you get voicemail, you say, hey, it's Rodger, give me a call. Leave your phone number, period. End of discussion.
That's all.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. That's it. Just asking all the basics here.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is you could leave some long-winded message that gives them satisfaction that they've heard what you have to say and they don't need to call you back, or you can have them call you back so you can engage in a conversation so they can know how you really feel about them and their business. And hopefully all of you really do have compassion and admiration for your customers and their business and what they do. That makes this job so much easier, right? I mean, in one sense of the word, every professional insurance agent that works on commission is an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. We ought, therefore, to have considerable understanding and empathy for other entrepreneurs that are doing everything they can to survive, right?
Absolutely.
So why are we not sharing that with our very best? Okay. It just doesn't. It wouldn't make sense not to be. And I'm not saying most of you aren't doing that, but I've heard a lot of resistance where people are really not sure where to go. And what we're talking about today is breaking away from this unprecedented time, recognizing every one of your customers to be newly in a startup mode. Because even though it's a restart, it's startup. And recognizing that should tell you a whole lot of things depending on the nature of the business, right? Mm-hmm. If it's the restaurant, so how are your reservations going? Right? The governor just opened up our state, or the governor opened up, or the mayor opened up your city, or whatever. How are your reservations going? How are you handling that? How are you booking? Can I throw you out on Facebook and tell people how to get to your site to get reservations? What can I do to help you get that? Right? And most of you have seen what I've done with a couple, right? We sent out the coffee to all of our brokers from one of our customers, and we sent a nice little message from one of our customers to all the others. And then every time I pass that coffee shop between here and the Eastern Shore, I put one on my dash and I take a picture of it and I post it on Facebook and say, best coffee in town. I mean, it is great coffee, so it's easy to say. But the reality is, let's hope we're driving more people there. Let's hope somebody we sent coffee to is ordering another bag. And these are the things that you should be doing for every one of your customers to the best of your ability, right? I know you can't go spend $1,000 with every customer because you've got 200 customers out there, and all of a sudden you just spent $200,000, and that's not easy. But you can do something, and it's that something, that little something that will truly make a difference. But you got to do it. Sitting around isn't going to help.
So let me see if I can summarize. Re-engage with your customers as often as possible. If they pop in your head, call them. Support them however you can.
Well, let's back up. If they don't pop in your head, call them anyway. Break open your CRM, break open your email, break open whatever list you have, and call every one of them this week. And then make notes on every one of those conversations. And over the next 2 weeks, you call back all of those that need it the most. And then you call the others on the third week, right? And you just stay in touch with all of your customers during this most difficult time. And when that customer is too busy to take your call, you know you've done your job.
That's pretty good. I will tell you, I've been doing that in my business. It's amazing what has happened. Opportunities have just fallen in my lap because I'm talking to people every day and people are connecting me to other people like, oh, you should talk to this person. Oh, I sent an article to a couple of people and they forwarded it to other people. One of those other people called me and said, hey, I need to talk to you.
Well, Bob, you know me, and over my career of 33 plus years, I've often been mistaken for a hard ass. I've often made the mistake of using skills and expertise over relationships in sales, which works really fine to a certain level. But then there are also times in your career when you have to recognize that there is nothing as important as your relationship with your customer. During a time like this, that's the answer. It's the only answer. That's honestly why I have loved the fact that we exclusively operate in a self-funded world at our shop, because we've done things for our customers during this time frame that nobody else can do. One of our largest customers has a $300,000 surplus left from last year that's coming back into their pocket any day, which will help them weather some of this storm. Some of our customers were able to take refunds from last year and pay 2 months worth of premium or costs to get through this process. And then they get their payroll protection loan and we help cushion. Others, we've just simply delayed the billing process. And there's a lot of things we can do. We've made automatic amendments to their plans. We've added telemedicine to some of the MEC plans to make sure we can get care as fast as possible. This is what I love about what we do, is we have that great flexibility to do the things that need to be done when they have to be done without long delays. We've made product enhancements, we've made product improvements, we've rolled out new products, and we're looking at more. And we'll continue to do that faster than the fully insured business can even think about doing it. And so because of that kind of scenario, that's why I love what we do. It gives us that ability to help customers when times are at the worst. And I don't think the fully insured customers that got to postpone the inevitable monthly bill a couple of months, but didn't have any money left over from last year to help cover it, they still got to pay that bill and pretty soon. Right. And so there's just differences. And the reality is it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether it's self-funding, fully insured, or they don't have any coverage and they're all buying individual stuff. The bottom line is These are people that help put gas in your car and pay your mortgage and do everything else for you every day. You've got to be there for them when they don't have the money to put gas in their car. It's a different time. They've made your career. Sometimes you have to do what you can to help make theirs.
Okay. Wow. I can't think of anything to add to that. I've had fired up Rodger for 35 minutes. You were wrapped tight today. See, you need these more often too.
Yeah, I need a juicy steak more often as well. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is we're all in this thing together, and that we can't forget, right? We just cannot forget that. And the one closing note, don't talk about the politics, the ugly part of what's going on now. Talk about how you can support them through COVID. Avoid the ugliness. Just show support. That's all we can do.
Okay. Well, I think we'll leave it there. If you have additional questions or you want to talk about this more, Rodger, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, as always, it's 443-275-7412. It's the easiest way to reach me. That's a direct dial direct to my desk, and I'm here most of the time. So feel free to give me a call.
And do you want to tell them about our great coffee offer? Because it is the Benefit Roast.
That's right. Don't forget to fill out your form and send it in, and we'll get you that great cup of coffee. Dennis, thank you for your kudos. I appreciate your comments today. It's always great to have additional help and support from you guys. But yeah, fill out the form. I think Dana's probably putting it in the chat box as we speak. I haven't seen it
It is
yet.
there.
It's there.
Yep.
Okay, so you know how to reach me. You know how to get your free coffee. Please don't hesitate. You can have a nice fresh pot of coffee on us next time we meet. And let's go get them, guys. Thanks for all your help. And just like I'm saying to you, thank you to all of your customers. I'm saying thank you to all you guys out there too.
And I also know that, Rodger, you've been doing a lot to support brokers and others. So if there's something someone needs, they can certainly call you with that request as well, right?
Absolutely. Pick up the phone, guys. We're all here.
Okay. With that, let's close the book on this episode of the Benefit Roast.
Thank you, Bob. Take care. See you, everyone.